Good morning.
Good morning.
As usual, let's start with prayer. Mother, Father, God, divine mind of the universe, we so appreciate all the love you have for us, all the gifts you send our way, and the opportunity to live as we choose in a free country. We have just celebrated the independence of America, as well as the joy and pride we feel in being Americans. We have the freedom to choose our hometown, our careers, our friends, and our expressions of faith. We are free to declare our truth, to express ourselves as individuals, and to celebrate the diversity of our land and people. We affirm our intentions to do your will, to follow Christ's teaching, and to demonstrate your love. We dedicate ourselves, our talents, and our resources to you, for we know they are all gifts from you in the first place. We ask for your guidance as we step into our future and as we find our truth as Christians, as believers in unity principles, and as a congregation of like-minded people. We open our hearts and minds to discover our truth and to receive your guidance for our lives. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
So today I want to talk about claiming our truth. This week we've been claiming our truth as Americans, celebrating our freedoms and life in this great country. I think the USA is the world's greatest experiment in freedom. May our freedoms last forever and spread around the world. America, like most countries, has had many highs and many lows. We've had injustice and justice, racial intolerance and acceptance, slavery and freedom, violence and peace, tragedies and triumphs. Many of our moments in history were truly heartbreaking. The good, the bad, all of this will affect us still today, one way or another, and will continue to affect Americans for a long time to come. We still face many limitations and challenges, but America has done some things very well. Number one, the Constitution has provided a steady guiding light, even when some leaders have not been very principled. It allows for corrections such as the amendments to abolish slavery and to provide rights to women. Number two, we are a nation of immigrants and have been from the very beginning. Immigrants built this country from the ground up, brought us innovation, strength, and character, and too many benefits to count. Number three, freedom of religion and worship has been the star in our crown, allowing people of both major and minor religions to worship freely to enhance our lives. Number four, the business acumen of our people has brought many new inventions, creativity, and benefits to us all. Number five, our land, spread from ocean to ocean, has resources of all kinds. The variety of landscapes, weather patterns, seasons, all of it enriches us greatly. All this results in our history of the past and our hope for our future. As an adult, I've been blessed to see much of our country. I've traveled the highways and back roads from California to Maine. I've driven through 34 states and Washington, D.C., and set up housekeeping in 9 states. America gives us a sense of personal reality and truth. I asked Evelyn this week what she thought I might address today. She suggested I talk about our sense of reality and remind us that we are spiritual beings living in a physical world of illusions, thinking it's all real. We need to remind ourselves to focus on the truth of our being, our spiritual nature, and our connection to our source. Right in line with her idea is the theme this month on Unity's calendar, claiming truth. Sometimes it can be difficult for us to stay focused on the truth of us as spiritual beings. We do get rather caught up in the daily physical drama of life. Everyone interprets the world differently. Some folks think think that everyone else should think XYZ because they're thinking XYZ. But life doesn't work that way. What we each think of as our truth should also be our living reality. By that I mean the reality we're living today is a true expression of who we think we are. If we're living a life of joy and peacefulness, then the combination of joy and peacefulness is our reality. If we're living a life of fear and worry, then our expressions of fear and worry are our reality. If we live a combination of all these, then that's how we conceive of reality. All of that is our expressed inner belief, our personal inner truth, our own sense of reality. If we truly believe that we are spiritual beings having human experiences, then our reality or our truth should be as visible as expressions of love, harmony, faith, joy, patience, etc. The word reality has different meanings to different people. Scientists and those who believe in a mechanistic universe say that reality consists of subatomic particles, bacteria, animals, water, light, dark matter, and so on. Their idea of reality has to be measured and quantified. Philosophers and religionists know there is another reality, one that is not measurable or quantifiable. It can only be experienced within. We each have access to that inner reality, a spiritual reality. When we demonstrate that, we are claiming our truth of our being. I've been known to say our purpose in all of our earthly dramas, whether good or bad, is to define self. This life is a role that we're each playing, complete with the costume of skin and bones. We get to live this role any way we wish. We are the scriptwriter. Dr. Michael Newton tells us the purpose of life is soul development. I think we develop our soul by learning and then putting into action our new beliefs and testing them to be sure they define us accurately. Soul development is an inside job. We must do it by ourselves and for ourselves. In that way, we demonstrate and claim our truth. So my question today is, are we living our lives in our truth? Our time is our life. And time ticks by so quickly. We think of 100 years as a long time, but in reality it's like a blink of an eye. We get to spend time as we choose, and thus we get to spend our lives as we choose. As Christians, we believe that God is with us. Are we truly with God? Are we standing in the truth of Source? Is God demonstrated in our personal reality, in our personal truth? Are we living the truth we know? Let's not allow our faith to be a passive feeling of absolute dependence or the sureness of survival. Let's have our faith be a living, dynamic experience of divinity attainment based on loving service to others. God consciousness, as it is experienced by us earthly mortals, must consist of three varying factors, three different levels of realization. First, the mind consciousness, the understanding of the idea of God. Second, the soul consciousness, the realization of the ideal of God. Lastly, the spirit consciousness, the realization of the spirit reality of God. When we unify all three of these factors of the divine truth, no matter how incomplete in our mind, we gain a realization of the personality of God. All this eventually leads us humans to know the supremacy of God. God is the supreme being. We seek for a God of love because we desire to be like him. Today we're trying to comprehend how to claim our truth and what actually is the reality of that truth. Though it's hardly possible for our human mind to comprehend the various levels of cosmic reality, we can grasp much of the meaning of the levels of finite reality: matter, mind, and spirit. Matter, which is organized energy and subject to linear gravity, unless it is modified by motion or conditioned by mind over matter, is real. The second one, mind, is organized consciousness and not totally subject to material gravity, and which becomes truly liberated when modified by spirit. Spirit is the third element, which is the highest personal reality. True spirit is not subject to physical gravity, but eventually becomes the motivating influence of all evolving energy systems that have personality. We have matter, we have mind, and we have spirit, and we can choose to modify them and use them. The goal of existence for all personalities is spirit. Material manifestations are relative, and the God-mind intervenes between these two universal opposites. It's up to us to welcome the God-mind into our personal world, into our lives, into our own thoughts, words, and actions. Unity teaches us that we have a home in the spirit realm, and we take that home with us wherever we go. We're always with it, whether we're aware of it or not. Many people cannot answer the question, who or what is the real you? Who are you? Who's the real you? They've lost touch with or never really discovered or uncovered their authentic self, the truth of their beingness. They've not gotten in touch with their personal truth. A few years ago, I had a man come to me for guidance. He was 83 and nearing the end of his life, and he couldn't answer that question. He's a wealthy, very successful businessman, but he told me he doesn't feel important, and he really doesn't know who or what he is. Can we answer that question confidently? Your name is just the label that your parents gave to your infant body. So if you could not use your name, if you could not say what you've done or accomplished in your life, how do you answer the question, who are you? What are you? Your answer to that question is your definition of your personal truth. Let me answer that question for you from my perspective, so you'll know what I mean. Who and what am I? I am a child of God. I am an intelligence evolving by the way of experiences to my highest and best eternal expression of love. That has nothing to do with Shirley. It has everything to do with my inner reality. And please know, I'm not there yet. I'm still working on it. I've been also known to say we define self in everything we think, say, and do. If we had to write down a list of adjectives that describe self, which ones would we use? Would they be positive or negative or a combination? Loving, mean, kind, stingy, cheerful, grumpy. We've been all of them somewhere along the line. We believe that we are spirit and soul, using and wearing a human physical body. This is our vehicle. We're each here because our soul and the one divine mind decided we should be here at this time as this self. As Christians following Jesus' teachings, we believe that the Creator made all things that are visible and not yet visible. And surely we know that source energy does not make junk. So we have value just because we're breathing. We have been given the gift of life by the one holy source of all that exists. We don't need any other reason to think of self as valuable. Would you use the word worthy to define you? I hope so. Abraham Hicks tells us, worthiness in very simple terms means you have found a way to let the energy that is natural reach you. Worthiness or unworthiness is something that is pronounced upon you by you. You are the only one who can deem yourself worthy or unworthy. You are the only one who can love yourself into a state of allowing, or hate yourself into a state of disallowing all good to come to you. There is not something wrong with you, he says. Neither is there something wrong with one who does not love you. You are all, in the moment, just practicing the art of allowing, or the art of resisting your connection to Source. Food for thought. Maybe we can remember things that we've thought, said, and done that were hurtful, not successful, not fully honest, or judged to be wrong. Are we totally honest with others? Are we totally honest with ourselves? When we're not honest with others, we might get caught in a lie and either be judged or judge self as wrong. When we consciously link our mind with the Divine Spirit, we rise to another level of being and living as our highest self. Isn't that really the goal that we each have? Don't we each want to live as the highest version of the highest vision of self that we can attain today? What level can we reach today? Can we choose to be totally honest, loving, kind, gentle, patient, generous, and so on? That choice has to be a conscious decision. We must make a decision to claim and live our truth, and then follow through. That requires an awareness of our thinking patterns. We cannot expect to improve ourselves or our lives until we become aware of our thoughts. I know sometimes our emotions get the better of us. They seem to happen so quickly. We think they happened to us. But emotions are a choice. Emotions are only inside our head. They're not out on the table. They're not on the floor. They're not here on this podium. Emotions are inside. And who has control over what's happening in our own head? Thee and me. We all do, individually. Love is a choice. Fear is a choice. And they're really the only two choices we have. If you think of all the other emotions that we say we experience, they bubble down to either an expression of love or an expression of fear. Oh, we think of anger. Think of the guy raging down the highway, flipping the bird to everybody else. He's got to be first. He has to be out in front because he's afraid that if he's not out in front, he's not the best. He's not enough. Fear and anger are different expressions of the same thing. Lack of understanding often leads us humans to a feeling of fear. But fear is not part of our spiritual makeup. Fear and an awareness of the one divine source cannot exist in the same mind at the same time. It's either fear or source. Which would we rather? Joshua 24:15 reads, where Joshua says to the Israelites before they enter the promised land, "Choose this day whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." In dream analysis, a house represents one's intellect. Who is our house? And who is our house supporting? And who is our house serving these days? It all starts in the mind, right? Everything begins in the mind. God told Neil Donald Walsh that God is the great seen and unseen. the all that is and is not. God is the unseen love that holds everything together. When religionists say that we are created in the image and likeness of God, that doesn't mean that God has 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, and so forth. What it really means is we are made of the same essence as Source. We're made of energy, love energy. We're made of the God essence. We are the same stuff. The Creator chooses to know itself through us and as us. So Divine Mind's purpose for us is to know self as God essence. We're to find that spirit, soul self and know it. Before we can know self as God essence, we must know self as not God essence. I think we're all pretty good at doing that. Before we can understand what we are, we have to experience it. After all, how can we know how great chocolate is until we taste it? If you've never tasted chocolate, you don't know what it is, and you don't know how great it is. The physical world was created so we, as portions of source energy, could be physical and experience things, including self. How do we experience self? We're back to that list of adjectives. We define self as we experience self. But which comes first, the definition or the experience? Do you suppose we experience self as we define self? If so, then let's redefine self as we wish to experience self. That's the truth we're really seeking. We must think it up first and then allow ourselves to recreate self in that new, higher image. Unity says, come home, find your higher self. Are we living and claiming our truth? Who and what are we? How long will we wait before we seek and find our own answers? Luke teaches us we are to seek God, and it might be touch and find Him, though indeed He is not far from each one of us. For in Him we live and move, and in Him we exist. Let's see if we can find a new aspect of our truth in our time of meditation. Put down the books. Settle into yourself. This is the time when we settle into a quiet inner space and refresh our connection with the one divine mind. Please close your eyes for a private encounter and relax. Let the chair hold you. Let your shoulders down. Focus on your breathing in and out. Quiet the chatter in your mind and rest in your silence. Feel the life force within you. Let your intention for the next few minutes be to gain insight on how you can better live your truth as your authentic higher self. Intend to live your truth at the highest version of the highest vision of you. Tune into your own higher self. Turn on your heart light. Find your spiritual center. Call forth your connection to the God mind within you and hold that feeling. Feel this collaboration. Know that this is your holy communion with the divine source. While you maintain this connection, go to your highest thought about you. While you maintain this feeling of unity with Divine Mind, choose to allow Divine Mind to think, speak, and act through you. Visualize the you that you will be when you live that thought every day. Visualize what you will think, say, and do. Feel how good that feels. Memorize how good it feels to be demonstrating only love, peace, and joy. Now see yourself responding to others with love, peace, and joy. Now rest in the silence with the One Holy Presence and listen for guidance for the highest good of your life. While you focus on your connection to the Divine Mind, choose to bring back with you to the rest of your days all the insight, guidance, and love you've gained here. Gently, slowly, bring your focus back to your fingers and toes, to the chair, to the room, and when you're ready, open your eyes. In Him we live and move. In Him we exist. And so it is. Amen.